Welcome to Order Fire. Today I'm sitting with my good buddy Roccowhalen, chef and owner of the Fahrenheits. I've been looking forward to this one for a while, so I wanted to get Chef's take on what's going on between here and Cleveland, talk a little bit about some basketball, tweezers, and the rock and roll.
Roccowhalen was born in Cleveland and grew up in a working middle-class Italian-American family. His father worked in insurance and his mother was a baker and cook at the local church. While in high school, he simultaneously lettered as football captain while also being the only boy in home ec classes. At 14, he worked as a dishwasher, leading to a line cook position in an Italian restaurant. His professional cooking career started in 1995 when he spent 5 years cooking with Wolfgang Puck at the majority of his restaurants on the West Coast. He then returned to Cleveland and opened the first Fahrenheit in 2002 at the ripe old age of 24. Multiple Rosie and Rocco's meatball bars followed in 2011 and were named after his late mother. In 2012, Rocco's opened in the Cleveland Cavaliers Arena, and Charlotte Fahrenheit, his biggest restaurant to date, opened its doors in 2014. His list of accolades along the way are numerous. Rocco and his wife Alexis split their time between Cleveland and Charlotte as he juggles his multiple eateries, catering companies, and even a food truck. His large staff is like a big family, and the success of his whole team is what drives his entrepreneurial spirit. He's not even close to being done. Rocco says he was put on this earth to cook for others. Who knows what he'll do next?
Rocco, thanks for having us out today, man.
Mark, my pleasure. Thank you very much. It's nice to sit and chat with people that I love and respect, and you are one of them.
Feelings mutual. So you've been in Charlotte now for?
The restaurant's been open for 2.5 years, but I've been coming here for about 6 total. I was incognito for the first 2, decided to plant some seeds here in that 3rd year, and then obviously we've been open now almost going on 3 years here in the near future.
So you were coming into town right around the time that I was kind of making my exit from fine dining. Your media team was already kind of like getting involved on Twitter and everything like that. Yeah. So, for me, it seems like you've been here longer.
I appreciate you say media team because that's actually just me.
Is it really?
Yeah, I don't have a media or PR team.
You kind of tell it's personal. And that was a funny thing because I remember I was still uptown at the time. And you had already, Fahrenheit had started following me and you guys probably didn't even have the walls up here yet.
Yeah, I think media and the social presence is definitely a big part of the realm of opportunity now. Just the fact that I've got a few places in Cleveland and they're pretty successful. I wanted to make a footprint, and obviously being that we're truly still the only rooftop restaurant in Charlotte, there's other places that have rooftop atmospheres, Whiskey Warehouse, Rooftop 210, but from 22 floors above the city, we're rocking and rolling every night, and blazing fire pits, a nice terrace. I think really nice, inventive, local, sustainable food that, that's kind of my passion, and just happy to be here and happy that you heard actually those social tendencies prior to us opening. It's a testament to my team, my wife, myself, but also social media can be taken in so many different directions. You've got your Generation X, your millennials, and everyone gravitates to what's special to them. I can't get on the Snapchat chain.
I can't
train.
do that either.
For me, I'm getting old, uncle. But whether it's Instagram or Facebooks or Twitter, there's an avenue for all sorts of customers, and the connectivity is very good. And to have an opportunity to reach those people is very important.
So when you were coming into Charlotte, I felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe it wasn't conscious, but I sort of felt that you were smart as far as you were already kind of tasting around, seeing what was going on. Obviously it's smart business to understand that Charlotte's about agriculture, so you picked that up quick.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of great places in Charlotte. If I can throw my hat into the ring and add to that big pot of beautiful things that are happening, whether it is ethnic food or regional American or continental, the sustainability of where we're at. I take South Carolina strawberries and I ship them to Cleveland from now until June. I take lake walleye or perch and I ship it down here, believe it or not. But the continuity amongst my staff, my chef David has been with me for 25 years. We started our careers together on the West Coast. And it's a testament to us, but also we like really great presentations of flavorful ingredients, just like any other chef does, without being too, tempered or temperamental, because I think that there's a lot of great cooks in the city. There's certainly a backdrop of tools, Johnson & Wales, Piedmont Culinary. There's room for everybody.
Right.
And it was a long shot for me because I didn't know how people would, take to me. I'm glad that you say, the nice things that you're saying about me. But I certainly try to make my staff understand that the more money we keep in the Carolinas, the better that Carolina will be. So the local sustainable aspect of our menus is based on meeting the farmers, not just meeting them, but shaking their hands, taking the voyage to visit what they're doing. The craft and passion that goes behind a farmer is centuries old. And for me as a chef to manipulate that in a way, all the way up here on my garden, in my rooftop, where I've got my basil and my shiso and some tomatoes and some peppers, just that little carbon footprint that I want to have is important to the resources of the community. And believe it or not, underneath us we've got 67 condos, and they can come up and clip basil for their pesto. And I think that's an amenity to the building.
Oh, they get to come up and use
yeah,
your
as long as they
garden?
don't take it all. It's like,
That's cool.
If Janie, Mr. Stevens, and Ron have a big run on pesto, I'm toast. But I mean, come up and clip rosemary. You're brushing, steaks on your grill with rosemary, or you're picking basil or some peppers or some tomatoes. We have those things, and that to me is what kind of gives us that opportunity in this city. I'm a humble guy. I've been a humble guy. I started with no money in this business. I still have no money in this business. But 15, 20 years later in my career, I've got restaurants in all different avenues in Cleveland that, I did do a little bit of research before I came into town, and I certainly remember who was nice to me, who wasn't nice to me, who was arrogant with me, but also, in dealing with you and talking to you, as the friendship that we have, and Peter and our friends, I'm a community-based guy. I want everybody to succeed. And the things that are important to me as a chef and an owner of a restaurant are different, I think, than some other chefs out there. Some chefs love, like I was saying to you earlier, awards and mutual, respect. What gets me going is making sure that the 140 employees I have in my company have a job the next day and have food on their table. And, if they want to buy a hoverboard for Christmas, they can afford that kind of thing.
Right.
It may sound simple and stupid, but I've got 140 employees, and I know all their names. And some of them are in Carolina, some of them are in Ohio, but it's right up and down 77 north and south.
Right.
You don't get on, you don't get off, brother. You stop in West Virginia for some Smokies in the mountains, but
that's about it. So now, you're talking about being in Charlotte for this long. My observation, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like it was like a very slow sort of junior high dance, though. It was like roccowhalen's in town and Charlotte chefs are here, and it was kind of like, I want to kind of see, you want to dance? And it was weird. Did it seem like a slow start or a sort of a slow ingratiating period? I know from watching what's happened in Charlotte, we've had people come in from out of town, which you did not do. So I'm not putting you in this pile. But they came in and they were going to show Charlotte how to cook.
Yeah.
We're coming up to Charlotte to show
Yeah.
you guys how we do it in Charleston. We're coming into Charlotte to show you how we do it from other areas. And they're no longer here.
Yeah.
They didn't even last as long as you have.
yeah, I'm just not cut from that cloth. I mean, I think that people need to realize that we all have very good attributes, and as a chef, I talk about the struggle, I talk about the sacrifice. We're very community oriented. We love the fact that our employees live, work, play in and around Charlotte, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing I'm going to have in my repertoire of ingredients that nobody else has.
Right.
I mean, it's for me.
But do you feel like it was? Do you feel like it was sort of waiting on each other to now? I mean, you're in the guild. You're doing the beer dinners over at Blake's spot.
Yeah.
We see you obviously at a few Order Fires. I see you at my spot, and it's not that you haven't been out, but do you feel that it was sort of like a tentative reception?
My first restaurant I opened at 23. I made a ton of people eat crow along the way that said I wasn't going to succeed, I was going to fail miserably.
Because you were young and being an executive chef.
Young, and I was probably hot at that point. I was a little, like-minded with, the hot-headed side of it.
You're supposed to be.
Yeah, to get results you are, but you really kind of mature and grow up in that. But, for me, I think the timing was right to come into the city. There had been some places that kind of came in and said, hey, there's a new sheriff in town, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I really just wanted to, complement the existing scene that already was here. I mean, this is a few years still before Cornelius, Tim Grudy, and Joe at Kindred, and you had gone on to your next phase, which I love at Earl's, and just in general. I mean, I think that guys like you and I really understand the term of rolling your sleeves up. You're never given anything in this career or this business. You have to earn it all, and I think the mutual camaraderie comes with hey, I met Rocco for the first time. He wasn't everything that everyone said he was or wasn't. He was just one of us. I mean, he
Right.
puts his pants on one leg at a time.
So what is it about guys from Cleveland that I like that are bald? And actually, what is it really? I mean, honestly, what is it about guys from Cleveland that own multiple restaurants? I'm talking about Michael Simon, obviously.
Yeah.
You know him?
A very good friend of mine, one of my best friends, actually. Talk to him at least once a week. There was a period of time in Cleveland when the river was catching on fire and the sports teams stink, and we're actually still there in some ways, except for the Cavaliers, which hopefully will win the NBA title this year. But I'm a passionate guy, and we'll talk about that in another episode. There was a period of time in Cleveland, though, where people didn't really have anything to do but gravitate to the food scene. And whether it was farm to table or charcuterie, we've got one of the best markets in the country. It's over 140 years old. It's called the West Side Market. It's positioned between two low-rent chef neighborhoods, one of which I'm in, and Michael is. But, it was a very much, I come from the land of no respect when it comes to the food, whether it's
Yeah, dude, we're Rust
food
Belt
and
people.
wine, James Beard, Bon Appetit, we really didn't get any props whatsoever for years and years and years. And then, Michael kind of opened that garage-sized door for a lot of the chefs in Cleveland, and, just brought a little bit more respectability to the table. But also, I think that, Cleveland, Charlotte, mid-market cities have great cooks all throughout them, and it's our job, yours and mine. The fact that we're not the new kid on the block anymore, to find those people, to gravitate to those guys, girls, and bring them out. I've got a killer pastry chef here, Rachel Child. I'm going to give her a shout out, that we want to be the next great pastry chef in town, and it's what you do to help her discover those things. Cleveland for me has always been my home. This is my second home. My wife and I have a condo here, and we did, take the living situation here seriously because I like Charlotte a lot. We pay taxes here, so that's kind of a nice thing to say to people too. You don't even live here. You just go back and forth to Cleveland. You're not even part of Charlotte. It's like, listen, I'm here just as much as I'm in Cleveland. They're both great food cities. They're on the way up on a meteoric rise, and look out, because guys like me, guys like you, food trucks, food carts, hot dog vendors, chefs, owners, bakers, brewers, we're all kind of the reason that the cities make differences, and we're all challenged to do our part. And that, for me, was what I learned in Cleveland. And I'm a humble guy. I had $50,000 to open my first restaurant in 2001, and we did it. I did it. We've watched it grow. I've got several concepts now that I go with. Cleveland is something where you know the sentiment of people and the taste in their mouth, and you want to make sure that you deliver on those promises.
Right.
And it's very cutthroat in the sense of there's a lot of competition, but it's a very livable community amongst the chefs. First thing I did when I moved into Cleveland restaurant, I worked at a restaurant for a few years, but to open my own restaurant, first thing I did was went down to Michael and Liz's and gave them both hugs and asked for their acceptance. And he told me, don't open for brunch, don't open for lunch, in the neighborhood we were in. Don't open for brunch, don't open for lunch, and just do what you can do with the best ingredients. We rolled, and that became, I was the second man in that neighborhood, and then it became to what it is today, 7 chef-owned restaurants. Of all of us, there's more stars on that street in Cleveland than many streets across the United States, but also in Cleveland for sure. And it's literally an opportunity for you to park your car and go to 4 or 5 different places and then get in your car and go home satisfied. I feel the same way about Uptown because, I want you to park here, maybe come up, grab a view, grab a sunset, grab a cocktail, grab a drink, maybe explore, other parts of the city, whether it's, along Moorhead, Plaza Midwood, South End. Cities are built on people.
They are.
You gotta have things to do, man.
I've gotten way less jaded than I was a couple of years ago.
Think about it,
God.
though. You park your car with me. Maybe you come up for one drink or with your son, because we're very kid-friendly and we want people to experience things. You go downstairs, you walk across the Ritz, Bob's shaking a drink at the punch room on the 15th floor. He's picking herbs, I'm picking herbs, we're having an herb fight. Next thing you know, you walk across the Epicenter. You walk down the street, you go to the Time Warner Cable Arena. There's a lot of great festivals, there's a lot of great breweries, there's a lot of great things happening on a night-to-night basis where the culture here is so great. It's unlike any other city I've ever been involved with. I've lived in Cleveland, I've lived in Phoenix, I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in Pittsburgh. Just to name a few, this city has a lot going for it, and we need to embrace that, and we need to pick our glasses up and, cheers to the moment, because I've learned so much about craft beer in the last 3.5, 4 years just being here. We serve locals by the draft on every tap handle, and I don't have 50 of them like some places do.
Well, almost every tap handle.
well, that's a Cleveland Dortmunder gold, but that's the only one, and that's just paying a little homage to my hometown. But I mean, the amount of things that you can do in this city, and the Whitewater Center, Sugar Creek, Romare Bearden, you can go catch a free, CrossFit class at Romare Bearden Park.
Do you collect paycheck from the Tourist Bureau?
No,
man,
CVB baby, Convention and Visitors. No, but I do love this city.
I mean,
that's for me. This is what I came here for. Yeah. Me, your son, we could go over to the ballpark tonight for a AAA baseball game, get tickets for $6.
Yeah.
A couple craft beers for $6, a couple popcorns, couple dogs, and be normal USA America for less than $50.
How awesome is that stadium too?
It's ranked #1 in the AAA. It's hosted the All-Star game last year.
I get to drive by there after school almost every night. It's like I got done last night and there's a throng of people and I'm just like getting the red light like.
Yeah, and they get 12,000 people a night, and that's important to the city. It takes away from the bureaucratic side of the government in this state right now.
Yeah.
To be quite honest with you, those things hurt.
Yeah.
We're hurting ourselves, and we need to figure out a way to, make everybody happy and not feel like they're under the gun to be right, left, whatever wing they are. Just we need to ensure people are being treated fairly.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your background. So doing a little research for our sit-down conversation here, I had never really gone like, well, where did he come from? So you worked for Wolfgang Puck?
I did, 5 years. Was the youngest sous chef in his company at the time at 19 years old.
And what year was that?
1996. Shouldn't have been a sous chef, just everybody else fell. Like they bring these guys in, 3, 4, 10, 12, 15 years experience, and they just made it like a week. So finally he looked at me one day, and this is back in the rigors of the day. He was in the kitchen cooking. It was, Southern California, Phoenix. He took a liking to me.
He was a big influence, but I always felt like he was authentic when he cooked on TV. You could tell he had his hands in stuff. He had a little blue book, which I think it was maison, it was like cooking at home. There's asparagus with mustard, mustard with asparagus recipe that everything I do with asparagus and mustard is
gotta have mustard.
It's derivative from it. Yeah, like tarragon and certain things. Sure. It's because of that book. So when I saw that, I was like, maybe this is why I like rock. Because it's it's Wolfgang, who I have the utmost respect for. He's one of the few celebrity chefs, especially from the older guard, that didn't really run from the kitchen.
He's definitely a mentor. I could call him today and he would pick up the phone, he would remember who I am, and he's got 30,000 cooks worldwide now with QVC and 50 restaurants. And the one thing I learned about him, or learned from him too, when I was a sous chef at Caesar's Palace, Spago, that does $28 bajillion a year in sales, you never knew who was going to walk in, you never knew what kind of people were playing, but I was introduced to so many different ingredients, Mark. We had 6 walk-in coolers, one was for caviar. Late 90s, before 9/11, we're talking, we had a cooler for caviar. And we had Osetra and Beluga at the time when it was still available readily. Right. And then we had a prime age case, and we had a fish case, but we had 6 walk-in coolers, and literally as a sous, you were to manage your walk-ins. And that was for a year, you just managed rotation in and out. But I learned a tremendous amount from him that it kind of parlayed into my career now and what we try to do on a day-to-day basis. The chef here, David, my right hand, one of my best friends, worked with me with Wolfgang 25 years ago, and we learned a lot of great things from him, and I take those with me every day. Wolfgang is a legend as far as I'm concerned. There's probably about 5 or 10 people that I could put on a legend list. He's definitely, he makes my legend list for sure. And that led me to be the entrepreneurial spirit. He was when he opened Ma Maison in 1981, before he opened Spago, he was 22, 23, 24-year-old Austrian that they didn't understand, and the next thing you know, he's serving Joan Rivers and Joan Collins pizzas, and they love it. And I met a lot of tremendous people. I catered several Governor's Ball for the Oscars at the Shriners Hall, and you're talking 1,000 caviar torpedoes with smoked salmon. You're talking golden statuettes, the whole 9 yards. That's where some of my humble, surroundings come from. I don't really get too fazed too much by.
You said that without irony. I loved it because it's like the Oscars, torpedoes, the caviar. It's humble beginnings.
It's the truth, though. I
thought a meatball hoagie would be like, that's humble.
Whiz wit, man.
Right,
Philly. No. Listen, it's one of those things. I try not to take the serious stuff too serious. I try to be serious at all times. But you never know who's going to walk in, whether it's George Clooney, George Hamill, Sylvester Stallone. I mean, you just want to take care of business and make sure that they want to come back for more. And
were you ever starstruck? Has there ever been anybody that's been to your restaurant?
George Clooney, when he was right around the Three Kings period of his acting career, he used to come into the place I was the sous chef at in Phoenix and just close the place down. And nice guy, one of us would be sitting here having a beer with us. The problem with our industry right now is that every cook at Johnson & Wales or the CIA wants to be Bobby Flay without pushing a broom when they get out of school. There's only one Bobby Flay. Get into the books, get into your, Food Lovers Companions, do your thing, but also learn how to sweep and mop properly. I learned how to sweep and mop Wolfgang Puck Food Company, 1997. Regional Vice President, his name was Joe Conti, I'll never forget this. Brand new kitchen, Wolf spent 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 million on the build. The floors weren't getting cleaned properly. Joe Conti comes in the kitchen, takes a big bubbling bucket of soapy water, hot, dumps it all over the kitchen floor. It says scrub. You know what happened? The floor got clean. Great lessons, and the lessons you learn on a daily basis are, the things that you need to take with you. Culinary kids, don't just think you're going to be Bobby Flay coming out of the gate. It takes a lot of time, and there's only one Bobby Flay, so why don't you be Roccowhalen, or why don't you be Mark Jacksina, or why don't you be
Joan? When you mop the floor, not that you necessarily mop the floor now, are you more of a sailor? Are you a figure eight?
I mop the floor in a very symmetrical fashion.
I'm talking about the mop itself.
Oh, I know. It's squares, it's cylinders, there's no figure eights in my world, but I have a very, very fond love and appeal for the squeegee. Yeah. I'm a mop heavy hard, get all the grit up.
I was on the squeegee this morning.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be. And for me to say that I haven't touched a squeegee in the last week, I'd be lying to you. Yeah. Because, I mean, those are the things that actually for me now, in my point in my career, if I can just talk to a squeegee for an hour, I'm kind of happy. As opposed to making those kind of big brain
people don't understand decisions. That. It's like 7:30 this morning and I'm squeegeeing the floor with the new dishwasher.
And it's peaceful and it's quiet and your coffee's hot and life is
awesome.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for me, that's like the guiding light. Yeah. I can come in here early and, obviously checks and balances is how I kind of run my businesses, but what happened last night, what's happening today, let's go over production. But if I can grab a squeegee and just kind of roll for a little bit, I go over my entire budget with my entire management staff. They know exactly how much money I make if they're all doing their job right. If they want to be in the position I'm in, here's what it takes, but also here are the financial ramifications for every decision you're going to make today. And they may say, oh, well, you're this or you're that, or you make a lot of money. To cut the check I cut every 2 weeks for labor, to do the things I do, here's where we're at. And I will bonus you out based on your performance. If that number in my bottom line gets bigger, you're bigger.
Yep.
If it's smaller, you're smaller. I've got this place. I've got a food truck. I've got 6 kiosk stadium restaurants in Cleveland, a Fahrenheit original from 2001. I've got a mozzarella bar and a casino. So literally when I touch down off Charlotte Douglas here, I'm doing work. When I'm in Cleveland and I touch down in Hopkins, I'm doing work and I catch up. So I have to have all my staff and everybody in place for what the fuck is going on, because I can't just walk in blindly to say, hey, what happened last Tuesday, Timmy? It's been 5 shifts since last Tuesday. So we're very thorough. Our reporting, our manager logs on a night-to-night basis, technology, we really kind of like grab it by the loins. We have, all our phones are linked. We have manager logs every night that people can go over, and I want the business. I don't want the manager log that says the shift was great.
Right.
Because guess what? You're fucking lying to me, I want to know what happened, why it happened, what we did to recover. Mistakes happen.
Yeah.
They're part of the business. It's what you do to recover from them. I had a bad experience. First of all, my first question to anyone that has a bad experience is, well, why didn't you say something when you were there? I used to not read those and not respond. We respond to everything. And it's like, you either like me or you hate me, but one way or the other, I'm going to find out why. And that is something that I, demand out of my staff on a night-to-night basis. I would do it all over again. I would do things just a little bit differently. Culinary school is wonderful, but I probably wouldn't have gone to culinary school, and I would have just licked my chops in restaurant or, venue experience.
You went to culinary school?
Pennsylvania Culinary in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
No, so at least you didn't spend the big bucks.
No, I spent $16,000. I paid every dollar back plus interest.
Yeah.
16 months of waste, to be honest with you. I mean, you're in baking for a day. You're in pastries for another day. You're making, you don't even touch foie gras. The instructor gets to touch foie gras. You don't even get a chance to, make a terrine or anything like that. That's why, like, Spago, Caesar's Palace, Wolfgang was so influential to me, because it's like, touch a lobe of foie gras, you got to make 50 terrines for this party, and you get good at it. You just the repetition is just, you're not worried about cutting and cleaning the foie gras lobe properly. You got to do 50, and you got 6 hours to get them done. That's a task, and the next time you do them, they're better and they're better and they're better, and then, then the creative starts. Then you're, taking little baby apples and you corn them out and stuff them with foie gras mousse and then tempura frying them or whatever. That's where the fun stuff happens. There's fine dining, there's family dining, there's friendly dining, there's banquets. I think, for me, I would scrap culinary school altogether, and I would have someone go work at a resort for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And they better get some family dining. They better make some food for the staff in the commissary kitchen. They better work in the fine dining place. They better get a good handle on banquets. My last banquet, I worked at the Point Hilton Resort at Tapatio Cliffs in 1995, 96 in Phoenix, Arizona, and it was a busy place. I did 3 cheese tortellini for like 3,000 people, and I'll never forget it. Mm-hmm. And you think of it like, oh my God, that's not cooking. No, it's not a lot of cooking, and it's a lot of prep and staging and this, that, and the other, but just to physically put out 3,000 covers in one sitting, there's a sense of accomplishment. There's definitely some, you've learned how to do it. I don't necessarily hang my hat on that, but I think that that's part of the industry, and you should know how to do that. I mean, banquets and banquet chefs, and you go to Halekulani in Hawaii, and you have this 600-person wedding, and you're getting rack of lamb and sea bass with a crab crust, and it's beautiful and it's plated and it's hot, and you wonder, like, how the hell are they doing all this? There's certain components to all sorts of all sorts of industry where you can learn things.
The problem solving that goes on for high volume, like doing what you're talking about there, I mean, that's an invaluable life lesson and skill to have. I mean, once you figure out how to feed 3,000 people, you're pretty much capable of doing almost everything.
3 cheese tortellini, baby.
Yeah, man.
And I was like bossing it out too. Like, I was 18
how did you
years
not
old.
walk out of there flexing on everybody?
I was 18 years old, man. I thought, like, this is the cat's
you
meow.
You walked out rooster chested.
Right. This is like, for me, and at the time, it's like, I've grown since then, but there's experiences out there for everyone, and find your niche. What do you like? There's great banquet chefs that could kick the crap out of you on Chopped if they wanted to do that. I mean, there's all sorts of avenues, and there's so much more to it than just cooking. There's a science behind it, there's creativity behind it, not just creativity on the plate, but also creativity to how to fix your mixer when it's broken without calling a guy for $400 an hour and making things happen. And
so you're in an interesting position as a chef where, like, you still have, like, you obviously you own the joint, so you kind of have direction where it goes, but at the same point you understand that you can't be there here, there, and 5 other joints. So you're sort of transitioning both professionally, right?
Yeah, in a lot of ways. With my first out-of-state concept here that I did, I wouldn't have done this restaurant had the chef here, David, not taken the job.
Right.
There would have been no Fahrenheit. It would have been who knows what on this rooftop. It was destined to be a restaurant.
Was he with you in Cleveland?
He was with me in Cleveland. He was with me in California. He was with me in Phoenix.
So it's been 25 years straight.
Pretty close. He dipped out to move to Hawaii for a couple of years, ran a sushi bar of his own. He came back. He worked in New York for a while. I helped him open a couple of restaurants there. My lifeline, though, it's family business. His wife, Dana, is my account payable here, as well as my assistant. Not that I have an assistant or want one, but that is her role, is like she has to, and you have to come to terms with some of those words because you have to have someone to correlate it all. It's like, literally, Mark, last Wednesday, I flew on the 6:55. I was here by 8:40. I was in the building by 9:10. We had a couple events that day. A lot of it is engaging your management team to kind of bring them back into, okay, you were gone for a week, chef. This is going on. This is going on. This is going on. Oh, by the way, it's restaurant week, or the Hornets are in the playoffs, or this, that, and the other. So there's a lot of tooling that goes on behind the scenes there. Line service every night. As you leave today, I'll go on the line tonight. It's somewhere where I'm comfortable. I was, as a young man, I was belittled for my weight. My mother brought me into the kitchen to protect me. So on the line for me is where kind of like a safe haven. But throughout the day, there'll be some emails being answered because I can't just let Cleveland operations stop or halt. And then at the end of the night, my day usually starts about 5:30 in the morning. I catch a workout with the guy over here in Dilworth, and then work through the day. Obviously, none of my places except for the casino outlets are open for lunch. So it's like lunch to me has always been like, not my biggest, it's an opportunity, but I don't really for me.
I'm with you on that one. Like honestly, if I didn't, when I was doing fine dining, if I didn't have to do lunch, if I wasn't forced,
you
I don't
get
want
it.
to do
You're
it.
a chef. You get it. It's like lunch. Great.
I'm a nighttime guy.
Yeah, great. You get the production done, but guess what? I mean, at the end of the day, you rank $1,200.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, but literally, I will pass along through certain things throughout the day, cook a little bit, answer some emails at the last thing I do at night, and I'll probably end my night tonight about 10 o'clock. I'm not here till the very, very end anymore.
Right.
I'm not closing down, but I chirp with the birds and get up, and then I will fly back to Cleveland first thing tomorrow morning. The Cavs play the Atlanta Hawks, Game 2 in Cleveland. I've got 2 outlets in the stadium, another outlet across the street, and another venue. So I'll check in on all those. And,
Plus the food truck?
Oh, yeah.
Does that roll?
Food truck's rolling, man.
So you'll have actually four units operating?
Tomorrow night, yeah. Two in the stadium, a third one at the casino, Fahrenheit, and the food truck. So 5, 6 here.
Right.
All at once. And, the food truck is, listen, it could be Southern style tomorrow night. Depends on what's going on. We try to gear towards, okay, the Hawks are coming in. Crispy chicken biscuits with cucumber slaw, very reminiscent of what you do at Earl's that I love so well, that street food take. I don't want you to come up to my food truck and have a $12 entree.
Right.
You should have a $4, $5, $6 taco, a $4, $5, $6 poutine, a $4, $5, $6 bowl of pho, or whatever it may be. We are very ethnic, and we serve that food truck for me as a commissary almost, where if we don't sell that night, it comes back to the restaurants or the outlets. Meatball sandwich one night, chicken lemongrass meatballs with the, spicy shrimp sauce or whatever. We do those things because, I've got a pretty good reputation and people like the quality of the product coming out. So fly home tomorrow, work all day, see my wife, give her a big kiss, because I couldn't do any of this without her. She's my support staff.
How long have you been together?
We've been together for 10, married for 7, coming up at the end of the month here in May. So, she has her own career separate from mine. We met in a restaurant, mine actually in Cleveland, fell in love, got married, but I couldn't do it without her. She's here in Charlotte with me 10 days a month. I'm here 15 to 20. I'm actually here more than I am in Cleveland, and especially like in February and March when it's cold weather in Cleveland, I try to come down here full time, just, spend my time here because I enjoy the snow less and less as I get older and older.